She appeared to have it all: wealth, beauty, power. But what she was really covering up was a childhood from hell.
Dealing with the mafia, drugs, sex with the norm, while growing up with a family that preached three words: skinny, tan, and rich. Maryanne Comaroto is our guest today. Skinny, tan, and rich. The name of your book, what do you mean?
Actually, that name came to me. I was praying for guidance. I'll explain what that means later. So it just came to me, but I remembered being a kid thinking I wanted to be skinny, tan, and rich when I grew up.
Why, who's pushing that on you?
I don't think anybody in particular. I just noticed it around my household. My parents were beautiful. My father was a competitive bodybuilder. My mother was stunning. All the kids were beautiful. It just was sort of a theme in our house.
Your dad was actually so good looking that kids would come over and just gawk at him?
My girlfriends. They would,
really?
Yeah. They would literally, one time, and this is the truth, when I was about 18, I was with a gal, and we were driving by one of my father's offices, and I pointed it out, and she said, "That's your father?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She said, "Oh, never mind." I said, "What do you mean, never mind?" Well, apparently she had dated my father, and she was 17 years old.
Oh,
wow.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And there was stuff that you didn't know about your father at that time.
Oh, mostly everything.
Really? Give us some examples.
Well, when I was very young, my father was God to me. The sun rose and set on my father, truly. I just thought he was wonderful. But he was involved in the mafia, and I just had no idea. I thought he was just a very powerful man, very strong man.
What did he tell you he did for a living?
I never asked, really, until I was older.
How did you describe that in school?
God, that's a good question. I think he said he was in real estate, is the truth. And he might have even had a real estate license. But I never saw his office until I was much older. You know, he just would go away during the day. And he worked out twice a day. That was the other strange thing. Like, he had all this time to work out. 2 hours a day, all the time.
What was he doing with the mafia now that you know? Do you know?
Yes, and
you're going to have to kill me if you answer.
I know. It's a trick. Just hang on. The thing is in the mafia, and by the way, it's not like on The Sopranos, okay? People don't glamorize it. You don't talk about it. You don't know what's going on. And you don't know who these people are. I mean, they could be the baker or the grocery man, you know, the butcher. It doesn't matter. But you have different levels of being in the mafia. My father, and we didn't know who he was. It was dark. He basically, you know, scared us, put his hand over our mouth and shuffled us out of the house. But as soon as we recognized who he was, it was kind of like, oh, Daddy's here, you know, because we didn't get to see him very often. So we were excited and terrified at the same time. So you had I always had these conflicting emotions happening, terror and anxiety, you know, and I sort of lived like that. There was a lot of trauma like that.
And that continued even in the household, wasn't it like that? Because was he sexually abusive to you?
Yes, he was. This is the harder stuff to talk about. Just because I loved my father. You know, it's a murky thing. I loved my father. My father...
Like you said, he was God. He was on that pedestal.
That's right. And I didn't, you know, you just don't know when you're a kid, I think. And I've talked to enough people who have survived abuse and sexual abuse. My father, it was his way of showing affection. And, you know, I didn't remember a lot of the really young stuff until I was much older. But the last time that he tried that I remember, I was a teenager. And by then, I knew it wasn't okay. And you know, he was a very big man, like I said. So having a 220-pound man on top of your body when you're 5 is one thing. But I was, you know, 17 years old, and I wasn't going to put up with it. I was still scared to death. But again, my father was a scary man. So again, the conflicting feelings, loving this man and being terrified of him at the same time.
You escape, you go to LA, you get into modeling, and after this commercial break, why would you come back and live with this man who was frightening? More in just a moment.